Coming to you live from Denver, Colorado. You're in the sports wagering zone. I'm Chris Pardo. Thank you very much for listening. We totally appreciate you listening to the show. We're coming to you live on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network. We're also on Blackjack Television. We're on most of your major podcast platforms, such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. Most of the major podcast platforms do carry the show. And in addition to that, we're also at milehighradio.com as well. So today is Thursday. Whatever time zone you happen to be in, welcome to the show. For some of you, it's just morning, and for some of us, it's already afternoon time. But whatever time zone you're in, I'm glad that you're here. And of course, the big topic for today, as usual, for the next few days, is going to be baseball. So today we've got 3 games on tap again, once again, to tell you about as far as in which direction the pros are going and in which direction the line movement seems to be going. And those 3 games are Texas against Detroit, the Braves against the Phils, and the Oakland A's against Seattle, the Seattle Mariners. Those are the 3 games we're going to take a closer look at, kind of let you know what's going on. In fact, the first game between the Tigers and the Texas Rangers is an early game. It's going to be starting in about an hour from now. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to our break real early so we can tell you about that game in case you're interested in betting on that game, because we're less than an hour away before starting time. So first of all, let's take a look at what happened yesterday. Only one sport to really talk about right now, and that's Major League Baseball. And the favorites and the underdog split yesterday. You had 14 games. They're 7-7, with the Padres Braves game number 2, because they had a doubleheader making up a game from before, was suspended in the middle of the 5th inning. So if you happen to bet on that game, it's considered a no action bet. You will get your money back depending on what sports book you happen to be dealing with. Should be no problem at all. The biggest upset, of course, was by the Cleveland Indians. They were a plus 290 on the money line, and they beat the Astros. The favorites, however, they still lead right now at 58%. The unders are 7-5-2, with pushes on the Kansas City Milwaukee game and the Minnesota White Sox game as well. And once again, just to remind you, when we're talking about a push on a game, we're talking about the numbers that come out of Las Vegas. Now, wherever you are, perhaps if you're in Chicago betting that game for the sake of argument, in Illinois, you might have a different line, and it may not be a push. It may be a minus, plus whatever in that situation. The overs, they still lead in baseball at almost 51% so far for the season. So let's go take that first break that we've been talking about, because we're also going to be talking about winnings and losing teams. So there happens to be a losing team that's gone to our limit, at least, okay? And we'll talk about that as well, kind of bring you up to date on that. And we got some data and some information to talk about as far as the American League is concerned as the season goes on. Some thoughts and ideas, some ideas that you might want to take part in anyway. But yesterday we talked about the National League. Today we're going to talk about the American League. So let's get that first break out of the way. And as usual, we do have 3 breaks in the show. Each one is of about a 1-minute duration. So if that's the case, let's take that break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the Tigers and the Texans. And welcome back. Welcome back to the Sports Wagering Zone. I'm Chris Pardo coming to you live from Denver, Colorado. Finally moved here from Charlotte, North Carolina. Seems like we got most of our stuff together. And again, we've been a little disjointed for the past few days coming back after being off for 3 weeks. But I think we're starting to get some traction and we're getting along. So today we're going to go into talking about winning and losing streaks. So we talked about that before we went on our break 3 weeks ago. We discussed it. We talked about it. So we'll go back into that again because we're ready to start giving you some analysis on that as well. But to begin with, we have 3 games on tap board today, and I want to get this first game out of the way right away because it starts at 1:10 Eastern time, so you're about an hour away on this particular game. It's the Texas Rangers. They're 35-61 in Detroit, and they're playing the Detroit Tigers, who are 46-51. Now, these are 2 teams that are kind of trending, if you look at it, in completely opposite different directions since the All-Star break, because the Rangers have lost 6 straight, while the Tigers have won 6 straight. Now, that's since the All-Star break. However, the Rangers are actually in an 8-game losing streak at the moment totally. But when you look at the break, the All-Star break, they have had 6 straight losses. So in comparison to that, the Tigers have won 6 straight games. So they're on that type of a streak. So Detroit is 3-0 against the Rangers in this particular series. They outscored Texas by 22-3 so far. And in this afternoon's final game, Texas comes in with their righty, Mike Fortinowitz. He's 2-9 this season with a 5.91 ERA. And Detroit comes back with their lefter, Tyler Alexander, 1-1 for the season with a 4.40 ERA. So as we look at this line, it opened with the Tigers. They were a short -116 home favorite. The Rangers opened as a +106 road dog. But the pros in this situation, they don't want to outsmart themselves on this one, so they kind of jumped on the Tigers to complete the 4-game sweep. And when they did that, they really steamed up the money, went up from being a -116 to a -131 on the money line. That's some heavy steam going in that direction. So the Tigers have value in this game. They're a non-division home favorite. Now, non-division home favorites are at 62% this season so far. And once again, talking about the steam, if a team gets 15 cents or more of steam, which is happening in this particular situation, or coming off of a win, are 61% so far this season. Detroit is 7-4 as a favorite, 27-22 at home. The Rangers are 28-50 as a dog, and 13-36 when they're on the road. The pros have also targeted the under in this game. After opening at 9.5, the total has fallen down to 9. So that's the early game. Starts in a little less than an hour, give an hour and 5 minutes, whatever. Kind of give you an idea of how the line movement is going in that game and in which direction, of course, then the pros are going. So if you're thinking of betting on this game, Rangers against the Tigers, the pros are on the Detroit Tigers, and they're also on the under in this game. The under dropped down to 9 from 9.5. So that's an indicator that's where their money is going in this particular situation. There's 2 other games that we're going to be talking about. You got the Atlanta Braves against the Philadelphia Phillies. That's a 7:00 game. Atlanta's 46-48. The Phillies are 47-47. Now, this is a divisional showdown, and it's actually a pivotal game for both these teams. The Phillies are just 3.5 games back of the Mets, who are in first place. The Braves are 4.5 games back. So in tonight's series opener, The Braves come with their veteran right-hander, Charlie Morton. He's 8-3 so far this season with a 3.69 ERA. The Phillies, they come out with their left-hander, Matt Moore. He's 0-1 so far with a 5.25 ERA. So as we look at the line in this game, it opened with Atlanta as a short minus 130 road favorite on the money line, and Philadelphia a plus 120 as a home dog. Now, the pros, the professional bettors, they see a big starting pitcher advantage with Morton over Moore, and they've gotten down really hard on the Braves, driving up that number from being a minus 130 up to minus 140 on the money line. The favorites have dominated in Major League Baseball since June 1st. The favorites are doing 61% since June 1st in baseball. There also appears to be some underliability in this game as well. The total is 9. And as we looked at some of the books in Vegas before we went on the air, some of the books are juicing the under up to minus 115 on the money line. So that means there might be some change coming real soon. The forecast calls for temperatures in the mid 70s, 5-mile-per-hour winds blowing in from left center. So in this particular game, the pros are on the Braves against the Phillies, who are really neck and neck trying to catch up to the Mets in the National League East. Meanwhile, the late game tonight at 10:10, the Oakland Athletics, 55-42 against the Seattle Mariners, who are 51-45 so far. Now, this is an American League West showdown, and you got a pair of teams that are real rivals up in that neck of the woods, and they're just separated by 3.5 games in the standings. Now, both of them are over 500, as you can see from their records, and they're all within striking distance of the Astros, who lead the division. Now, in tonight's opening game, the Athletics come in with their lefty, Sean Manaea, who's 6-6 so far this season with a 3.28 ERA. And the Mariners start their righty, Chris Flexen, who's 9-3 with a 3.35 ERA. This line opened with Oakland as a minus 126 road favorite on the money line, and Seattle a plus 116 home dog. Now, the pro money seems to be leaning on the Athletics, because we've seen the Athletics number go up from minus 126, which we just said, up to minus 134. Not much of a move, but it's definitely in that direction. Now, also in this game, Oakland, they have a rest advantage. A's are coming off a day off, while Seattle played yesterday in Colorado. Now, keep in mind that rested favorites against teams playing back-to-back are at 61% this season. Just want to repeat it once again. If a team is rested and they're a favorite and they're playing a team that's coming into play as a back-to-back, in other words, they played the day before, the night before, they are at 61% so far this season. Oakland's also riding that 2-game winning streak, and the short road favorites of minus 150 or less that are coming off a win are at 59%. Short road favorites, minus 150 or less, which the situation is, are coming in at 59% as a win percentage. We could also be looking at a low-scoring game here also, because the total started out as 8, with the under being juiced up to minus 115, which means there's a good possibility that the number may drop down to 7.5. Now, the under is at 57% at T-Mobile Stadium so far this year. So, Oakland against Seattle, the pros in this game are on Oakland in this particular game. And just to recap the 3 games we talked about, especially the first one, because that's going to be coming off in less than an hour. The Texas Rangers and the Detroit Tigers. You have one team that's on a 6-game, or it's actually on an 8-game losing streak. That's the Texas Rangers. The Detroit Tigers are coming off of a 6-game winning streak. So we'll talk about winning and losing streaks when we come back later on after our break. But that particular game, the pros are on the Detroit Tigers to continue on winning. Meanwhile, in the early evening game today, Atlanta against Philadelphia, the pros in that game are on the Braves, who are neck and neck with Philadelphia, trying to catch up to the Mets in the National League East. And of course, the late game we just talked about, Oakland against Seattle, the pros in that particular game, they're on the Oakland Athletics. So that's a roundup of the 3 games that are on tap for tonight. Gave you the line movement on them, kind of give you an idea as to which direction the pros are going in them as well. So that should be of some help to you if you're using any of those stats. By the way, yesterday we did have 3 plays that we talked about. Hopefully you were able to get in early enough on that Mets game because we liked the Mets over the Reds and they wound up winning that game. Then, of course, we had a loser with the Twins against the White Sox. The Twins upset the White Sox yesterday. That was a big upset as well. We had the White Sox in that game, so that was a loser. And then another win we got, Cubs against the Cardinals. We had the Cardinals in that game. So yesterday we had 3 plays, 2 winners, 1 loser. The day before that, we had 3 plays, all 3 teams lost. So just kind of give you an idea as to how the pros are doing. And so far this month, we've had 37 plays, and there have been 18 winners in this particular series. This particular month so far as we've been going along. Now, of course, keeping in mind on the money line, you don't have to be at 52.3% as you do with normal wagering because you're money line betting. That means anytime you bet on an underdog and it comes in, you're going to be in the plus money category. We'll be talking about that as we go along too, but just that's a subject for another day. Kind of bring you up to date on that, especially the new bettors, because more and more states are coming in on board. So there are millions, literally millions of new bettors coming into the fold. So that's the story for today. Story for yesterday. So the past 2 days, 6 plays, you had 2 winners. That's the story right now. So you can use that information and you can say to yourself, well, looks like they're usually around 60%. So maybe they're having some winning plays today. Or sometimes you can look at them and say, yeah, they're kind of in a little downward swing. So I think I'm going to bet against them this time. And again, we just give you this information and then we leave it up to you to decide which way you want to go. So let's take a break. And when we come back, we're going to take a look and talk about winning and losing streaks. So let's get that break out of the way. Just a reminder, if you want to get a hold of us, it's very, very simple. Just send an email. Send it to the Sports Wagering Zone at gmail.com. That's the Sports Wagering Zone at gmail.com. We'll be back in 1 minute. And welcome back. Welcome back. You're in the Sports Wagering Zone. I'm Chris Pardo. Thank you very much for listening. We're coming to you live on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network, Blackjack Television, also on most of your major podcast platforms. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or just about any one of the major podcasts that are available, podcast platforms that are available. So just want to make sure you understand that. You can listen to us later on. Try to listen to us live if you can, because that's when you're getting information on games that are early. Like today, you have the Texas Rangers game against the Detroit Tigers. That's going to be starting in less than an hour. So at least you have an idea as in which direction the line movement is going and in which direction the pros are going. Because, sometimes, you look at a game like this and you see a team has an 8-game losing streak, the other team has a 6-game winning streak, and you kind of lean one way or another. You might like the Tigers to go on, or you might like perhaps Texas that they may finally get out of their doldrums and win a game. Either way, at least you're getting the information early enough so that you can put it together with whatever system you're using and see if you can come up with a winning situation. So that's the story on that particular game. And just as a reminder, in that game, the pros in that game are on the Detroit Tigers. Now, before we took our little moving break, in other words, if you just tuned into the show, you know that I'll let you know that we were off the air for about 3 weeks because I had to move my family and my goods and everything from Charlotte, North Carolina into Denver, Colorado. And if you've ever made any kind of a move in your life, you know what it's like. It doesn't happen overnight. You think it will, you plan like it's going to, and then, it just never happens that way. In my case, it took just about 3 weeks before I finally got everything pretty well together, but also getting stuff together statistically so that I could actually do a show and be kind of consistent in what we're talking about. So we kind of took that 3-week break, got everything all out of the way, started back again this past Monday. We should be going full speed ahead before you know it. Again, we've been a little disjointed over the past few days, just trying to get our feet back into the situation, as they say, and going. So before we took that break, however, we were talking about winning and losing streaks. We started talking about them about a month before that period began, and also we kind of started keeping some data and some stats on how well or how badly it's doing as we were going along. So we talked about winning and losing streaks, and the important thing that you should be considering is what you consider to be a winning or a losing streak. Now, here, for the purpose of just having a definite number, we chose number 6. In other words, we went through all the data that we had, try to see if we could come up with some sort of statistical number. We kind of think that 6 is a good number. So after a team has either won or lost 6 games in a row, the chances of them coming out of that are usually on the plus side. So whether they're on the winning side or the losing side, that's up to the decision on how it happens. But we use the number 6. So for our statistical data, we're talking about 6 wins in a row or 6 losses in a row. You have to determine what you want it to be. If you want to be a little more conservative, you may say, well, I want 8 to be the number. Whereas once a team loses 8 games in a row or a team wins 8 games in a row, that's when I'm going to finally jump in and start making some bets. So in this game today that we talked about, that's going to be starting in less than an hour, you got the Texas team against the Tigers. So let's take a look and see Texas Rangers and the Detroit Tigers. Right now, the Texas Rangers are on an 8-game losing streak. 8-game losing streak. So according to our statistical data, we kind of feel that that might not be a bad bet. On the other hand, you can also look at this game because you have another team, the Tigers, who are on a 6-game winning streak. So you have to look at both, and depending on, again, what your number is. If your number is 8, you could be 10, it could be 9, it could be 2. It's totally up to you to decide. For statistical reasons, we use number 6 so that we're consistent with what we're talking about. So in this particular series, Texas on an 8-game losing streak, the Tigers on a 6-game winning streak. And another thing to keep in mind, after you decide which way you want to go, is that tomorrow you want to take a look at both these teams, depending on what happens, and a certain situation comes into play called the swagger theory. And the swagger theory simply says that if a team is coming off a losing streak, so let's just say for the sake of argument, the Rangers do win the game today, the chances of them winning again tomorrow are good. Okay. Now, meanwhile, if you're looking at the Tigers, if they lose today in that game and they now have broken their winning streak, the chances of them losing their second game is very good as well. And that's referred to as the swagger theory, because the feeling is that there's sort of swagger. You've been on an 8-game losing streak. Now you won a game, so you feel good about it. And you usually go on to win the next game as well. The swagger theory, the other way goes the fact that, wow, you had a nice winning streak. You just got beat, so you're kind of down and out. There's a chance you may lose the second game as well. So we're going to keep a close eye on these things. We're going to bring you up to date every day. If there is any situation where there is a winning or losing streak at 6 or more, okay, we're going to talk about it. So we're going to let you know. But like I said, the important thing for you is to decide what it is that you feel is a number that considered to be a winning or a losing streak. So talking about that, and again, just something else you might want to bet on. You look at a game, you're not sure who you want to bet on. So you say, I don't know, I like Chicago, I like the Mets, or whatever it is in that particular game. You're not certain, but you do want to get some action in for that day. Take a look at, see if they were on a streak or not. That's just another way to go. So let's take a few minutes now and take a look at the National League. And as far as the rest of the division is concerned, as far as to how some of the teams are doing, take a look back at how some of the suggestions or ideas that we talked about before the season started, just to see how we're doing with that. So yesterday we talked about the National League. Today we're talking about the American League. So out of the American League West, we're talking about the Athletics. We thought an under 86.5 was the way to go in that particular situation. And right now, it really doesn't look that good right now, because they're at 52-40. The A's are on pace for a 91 or almost 92 wins this year. So, of course, that would be a negative choice that we made earlier in the year. So I need them to really lose quite a few games to try to bring us into play. But the Astros, who are a minus 105 to win the division, and some people even got plus money because I got some emails on it. It's looking a lot better. They have a 3.5 game lead as the break came last week. So right now we like the Astros at a minus 105. That's doing good. Like the Athletics under 86.5, not doing so well at the moment. Meanwhile, in the Central Division, we had future tickets on the White Sox at 445 on the plus side to win the American League, and they were at a plus 1100 to win the World Series. So they look like decent ideas right now. They're leading the Indians by 8 games. They got the easiest path to the playoff with their schedule, and you can still get the White Sox as a plus 350 on the money line to win the American League, and a plus 900 to win the World Series. So you might want to take a look at that one, because there's a good possibility that may happen. Again, we just bring that to your attention. Leave it up to you to decide what you want to do. Now, one of the over-under games that we talked about were the Indians. We took them under 81.5. It kind of looks like that's going to work out as well. Meanwhile, in the American League East, the Yankees, they were the prohibitive favorites, if you remember. They were at a minus 235 to win that American League East title, okay? And that's before the season was ready to start. Now, I hope that none of you guys out there kind of went that way and thinking that at minus 235, that's a great buy because they're in fourth place. They're 8 games back. Although I guess you really believe the Yankees can kind of get their stuff together and take care of their problems, they're still available. If you kind of think that, yeah, I still have faith in them. I think they're going to get things put together. I think that everything will work out fine. Then you can still get 12-1 odds just to win the Eastern Division. So just something you want to take a look at if you kind of feel in that direction. Because the Blue Jays on the over of 86 wins looks like that's going to be a tough one also that we talked about. So that's the story. That's how we they're trying to let you know when we're doing good. We let you know when we're doing bad as well. There's no doubt about that. So that's the story in that situation. So we're going to take our final break. And when we come back, we're going to recap the 3 games we talked about on tap for today. And just as usual, each break is 1 minute long. So we will be back in 60 seconds. And here we are. We're back again. Thanks for listening. You're in the sports wagering zone. I'm Chris Pardo. We're coming to you live right here in not Charlotte. We used to say that all the time. I said that for like 8 years. Now we're in Denver, Colorado. We're coming to you live on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network, also podcasting on most of your major podcast platforms. You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, just to name a few. Also, Google. Don't want to leave them out because they're huge, as they say. Okay. So that's the story. We talked baseball. That's all we're going to be talking about more than likely for the next couple of weeks, unless something develops with the NFL or with college football, college basketball. We'll keep you up to date as to how the odds are going in those situations as well. And just a rundown of the 3 games we talked about today, the direction of the line movement. And of course, once you determine which direction that line movement is, that'll give you an idea as to which direction the pros are going. We follow them. If you're new to the show, we do this every day whenever there's a possibility that they are making some choices. We watch the line movement, and if that's going to be the case, we'll let you know about it. Like a couple of days ago, there were no bets because there wasn't enough line movement in any of the games for us to tell you about it. We're not just going to throw out a game for you just for something for you to bet. There's going to be some analysis, some data that's going to back up whatever it is that we're talking about. But at least the important thing is we leave the final decision up to you. Tell you what's going on. You take it from there. Okay. So the 3 games on tap for today, we have the Texas Rangers and the Detroit Tigers. They're going to be starting in about 25 minutes. In that particular game, the pros are on the Tigers. And also, it's also a winning and losing streaks bet as far as we're concerned, or look at anyway. You got the Texas Rangers who are on an 8-game losing streak, and you have the Detroit Tigers on a 6-game winning streak. So depending on what you're thinking, if you're thinking in that direction of betting, whether you think the Tigers will go on or whether you think that the Rangers will finally win a game, that's up to you to decide which way you want to go. If you think that 6 is a valid number as far as you're concerned, again, we use it for our statistical data so that we're consistent with what we're talking about. In the meantime, you have the Braves and the Phils. In that particular game, the pros like the Braves because the Braves and the Phils are both fighting to beat up on the Mets to try to get into first place in the National League East. Oakland and Seattle. In Seattle, we're on Oakland in that particular game as well. So just to let you know, the pros are on the Tigers, they're on the Braves, and they're on the Oakland A's. They're on the Braves and they're on the A's. So that's the story there. So that's today. Today is Thursday. Thank you very much for listening. I tell you, we totally appreciate you listening to the show. Our numbers have been doing very, very well. We kind of sloughed off a little because we're gone for 3 weeks. Some people thought maybe we're not coming back or whatever. But slowly but surely, you guys are starting to come back, and we totally, totally appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you very much. Let us know what you think. Send us an email. Send it to the Sports Wagering Zone at gmail.com. The Sports Wagering Zone at gmail.com. So thank you for listening. Have a wonderful Thursday. For some of us, it's middle of the day. For others, it's kind of the day just starting out. Whatever it is, I hope you have a pleasant Thursday. And if you're going to be doing any wagering or betting today or tonight, I hope you have a profitable Thursday as well. So until tomorrow, we'll be back again. We're here every Monday through Friday at 12 noon Eastern Time, live from Denver, Colorado. So until tomorrow at 12 noon Eastern, I'm Chris Pardo. Thank you for listening. We'll be back again tomorrow, and have a very pleasant and, like I said, hopefully a very profitable day as well. Goodbye, everybody.